It's Dina Doll and Melba Pearson. We are back on Legal AF. Free subscribe if you haven't already. We're breaking down a very disturbing decision. We've been, of course, tracking on Legal AF everything that's happening with people who are trying to come into this country, those trying to stay in this country, and what ICE is doing and Trump is doing. Well, as it turns out, under Trump's DOJ, there's a panel within the DOJ that has issued like an opinion or a decision, let's say, that says that if you are in the middle of an immigration proceeding, if you have come into this country and you are starting your immigration process, that you should be in detention. You should be detained and not given bond pending your immigration status. This, of course, is very different than what we have done in the past. People are usually not in detention, waiting whether or not they can stay legally in this country. And it also explains, or perhaps is now giving a legal justification to ICE showing up at these court proceedings and arresting people and detaining people. Lots to talk about here, both legally, what are the ramifications, how this all gets into it. But first, Melba, your take on this news. Now, just to really quickly point out, this news is not necessarily binding on immigration judges. It is not federal law. This DOJ did not create federal law. However, perhaps you might have the situation where some judges will follow this now and some judges won't. A lot of appeals, I'm sure, in the mix. We'll get all into this. Melba, what's your take?
Well, again, it's very consistent with this administration's war on immigrants. And the reality is, first off, this is going to affect people that are already here and going to their regularly scheduled check-ins with whether it be a member of, officer saying, hey, I've been out, I'm checking in to say I'm still in the country, I'm still employed, all of that. So those regular check-ins, as well as folks that are actually going to court appearances, again, responding to what the process was. They were told you need to check in, you need to go to these hearings and go through the process. And that's what they were doing. So literally, you're punishing people for complying with the current rules around being undocumented and either seeking asylum or whatever the case may be, you're trying to move your citizenship forward. So this, again, strays away from the whole narrative of this is only getting the bad people. We're only after rapists and murderers and all of that. Well, clearly you're not, because the evil people that you're referring to, they're not going to check-ins with immigration officers. They're not going to immigration court. Okay. They're staying way under the radar. So you're scooping up hardworking people that came here, fled oppression, fled war, fled famine, whatever the case may be. They're here, they're productive members of society, but yet we're just going to toss them out just because, at a whim. And these are real lives that this administration is playing with. So it's just incredibly disturbing overall, especially the precedent, as we're totally going to get into the precedent that this sets.
Yes, and a few things you looking at in the broader context, but just like to the point about like how legal is this? And the problem, as we have seen with Trump and his many other illegal things, is the Supreme Court a lot of times has allowed him to continue doing the thing, right? Reversing lower court preliminary injunctions while they decide it's legal or not. So if that happens here, right, if most likely there will be some sort of appeal, I would think, if, when this starts getting implemented, but it could mean somebody could stay right in a detention center for years while this ultimately maybe goes up to the Supreme Court to decide whether or not it's lawful or not. So you have a few things going on at the same time, I think not coincidentally. Congress in the awful bill, allocated huge amounts toward ICE, right? They didn't allocate huge amounts toward immigration judges. If you truly want to get people out of the country, which he ran on, deporting people, you would have more judges to facilitate that faster. Instead, they're putting more money to detention centers because Trump's billionaire friends want another stream of income. And that is what this now just helps, because now you have people, if you have people in a detention center, you have to build more detention centers. You have to house people. You have to feed people. We should, as I mean, I'm a Democrat, I know we're legal here, but we talk politics too, should be talking about the fact that this is, he ran on a deportation, but really now our taxpayer money is being sent to these oligarchs, and these poor people are the income stream for them. So there's that context, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're not deporting people, you're now detaining people. Mm-hmm. This opinion makes that. Yeah, Melba, what was your point there?
No, I was going to say, I absolutely agree. And also follow the money. Like you're saying, Dina, look at the stock prices of Geo Group, of some of these other big organizations that are involved in building, whether they're building detention centers or providing services to detention centers. This could include some of these companies that charge ridiculous amounts of money for you to be able to call your loved ones, right? So all of these other aspects and other companies are in here getting money out of this. And again, did they provide a kickback to somebody in this administration? Is there a promise that once this current president is out of office, he's going to get another plane, or he's going to get another golf course, or whatever, right? There's a quid pro quo here somewhere, which again is disturbing, because this is going to be done on the backs of innocent people who, yes, they came to the country in an undocumented fashion, but there is a process to address that. And the fact that you're not letting that process play out, despite the fact that President Obama and President Biden, which I know is a hard thing for Democrats to talk about, but they deported more people than this current president did in his first administration. And they did it legally. They did it with due process. They said, okay, you got convicted of a crime, boom, okay, you've got to go. Or you didn't follow through and show up to your appointments, boom, you've got to go. They were able to deport more people that way than this craziness that this administration has now set in motion.
Exactly. And, I think to the other kind of news context is Trump announcing that he's planning on using JAG military lawyers as immigration judges, because instead of actually hiring more immigration judges or promoting more immigration judges, we're to the point that it is now going to be up to the immigration judges to decide whether or not to follow federal law or this new DOJ policy. Because, I have a very good friend who's a former JAG Corps lawyer, who's a defense lawyer. He went to the federal public defense lawyer. I don't want to somehow act as if all JAG lawyers are somehow going to, salute to Trump and do whatever Trump wants. But it is a completely different justice system. We should almost do like a whole other take just on the JAG military, because, it is very much a top-down rules there, right? The colonel who's the judge, is much more, the rules are not the same. Let me just put it that way, right? Mm-hmm. There is more of an authority perspective in that. And so perhaps they will be more likely to follow the DOJ policy, because they will see that as their authority in a way that perhaps a typical federal immigration judge will not. Certainly, if they are handpicked by Trump and put in there, they will be more likely to follow whatever Trump wants. And again, at the end of the day, I know you're keep circling back, Mel, but it is about the people who are here working, family members. I have a good friend of mine who's self-deported because fear, I'm a lawyer, we'll help you legally, but nobody wants to be put in a detention center far away from their family or in a third world country if they've been living a life here in a peaceful and safe way. So it's tragic. It's tragic about what's happening, how this is affecting the individuals. And of course, a tragedy for the law that the DOJ, in yet another action, they've done all these other memos that are, seem to want to flout the law too. But in this decision, we wanted to highlight it because this is a very important new development that could change the trajectory of what is happening and kind of pull that all together, what ICE detention centers are doing and the JAG military as well. Any last words, Melba?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it comes back to due process and the lack thereof. that you're not allowing people, because again, if you are in the United States, it doesn't matter if you're documented, undocumented, where you're from, whatever, you are subject to US laws. And that also means you're subject to US due process. That's what makes us special. That's what makes us great, right? And when we're dismantling due process and saying, hey, some of you get due process, but the others of you don't, that sets a dangerous precedent. And if folks pick up a history book, we know how that ends, and it doesn't end well. So we have to be very vigilant and handle our business when it comes time for the midterm elections, or, push back in ways that are safe. But again, letting folks know that this is serious, and we can't lose that important part of our democracy.
I was smiling, and now that was so serious, and because I'm so glad. And this is the one good reason summer's over, because Melba's back. School is back in session. Otherwise, I love summer. I'm always sad to have it end, but it's the one good thing. We get to have these duets together. So
yes,
folks, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. We are helping building this thing that Popok has created, and we want everyone to come join along. So glad we got a chance to talk, Melba, this morning. We'll continue to be doing lots of this now. So many really serious and important topics coming out of what Trump is doing that affects us all.
Absolutely.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.